Richard, over to you.
I'll use my own mic.
No.
Good evening. And someone leaves immediately as soon as I say
Yes,
all right, you're right. That man is my brother. No. I'm the only one on this panel who hasn't written a book, but after tonight I'm thinking of starting one later. We have enough people here for a minion, for those of a certain religion, and also to form a security council. We have 15. Who wants to play New Zealand tonight? We could form a circle. I agree with most of what was said. I will, to try to give you some real insight, I shared a bedroom in Japan with one of these panelists. Can you guess, was it contestant 1, 2, 3, or 4? Any guesses from this so far immobile audience? Oh, he's not looking at his device. I've got his attention. Go ahead. 3. This young lady.
Yes.
All right. Any other guesses? Well, because he just pointed at himself. It was with Ian Williams in Fukuoka, Japan, in 1995. And, you know, anyway, it was it good for you that night? That was a budgeting issue, I believe, for the people who had invited us to Japan. And now he's back to his device. That's amazing. He was able to multitask. I like that. He heard bedroom or sleep or something. What will I just want to add briefly. Okay, before the questions, I don't know how many of you are here for the National Stationary Association dinner that may be on another floor, or actually are interested in the UN. How many of you work or are connected? Can we see by a show of hands and a show of awakeness? How many of you work or are connected to the UN or a UN mission or an NGO or a foundation or a journalist? Come on, get them up.
Just a journalist club.
So I would say from the CNN point of view, for me, the media, maybe these fine people have not talked enough about that. I mean, this is the UN and you're in the media capital of the world, and I still have issues with the way the UN is understood or gets its own message out. It's hamstrung. I mean, can you imagine a private company working well with 193 board members? I mean, they've explained the problems well. We talked about Ban Ki-moon. Maybe he is misunderstood. Maybe years from now we're going to hear some real interesting stories. I mean, the Secretary General, the current man, waited 9 months to hold a press conference this year. I'm not saying there was high demand, but it tells you a lot about him and his belief. Now, he went to Europe this week. Monday, press conference in Geneva. Tuesday, I think, press conference in France, Strasbourg. It's different. I mean, he's always been worried about the UN press corps. And maybe he does find work behind the scenes. We may never know. There's some qualities that were listed, but people don't think of the UN. I mean, look at how people are viewing this election. It is not a top priority of an American family. The husband or the wife doesn't get up and say, honey, they didn't mention the UN in the debate. And yet you remember the 1995, 94, 96, 96 convention, Bob Dole, candidate for president. It seems hard to believe now, making fun of Boutros Boutros-Ghali's name. Prime time television, it was incredible when you look back. I still get a bit of a rush, maybe I need new thrills. I was looking at a conference room yesterday at the UN, and you see every country of the world sitting there, but maybe because we're in New York and you can get into a subway car with 42 different people from 37 different countries, but it's still interesting. But the UN has a way of making it dull. It doesn't want to do anything that stands out. So you have New Zealand sitting there and Uruguay and all that, different people from around the world, but only the UN can discuss an item by never even stating what they're discussing. It has to be agenda item 54/2109, and it just never wants to say who's the next speaker in the General Assembly. There are so many ways you can improve what is going on there. The very name, Sustainable Development Goals, is a pet peeve of mine and other journalists. SDG. I know you got to call it something, but nobody knows unless you're sadly sitting in poverty in a village, maybe, and if you're an NGO and part of the system, what the SDGs are.
Something you can catch if you're not careful.
Right, sustainable development. It could be something on a construction project on 3rd Avenue. It's just, so there are improvements. I think we need to make time for questions. I'd be very curious so that we can blame other people other than the UN here when we take the questions. Thank you for coming tonight. I know some of you want to get home for the Orioles, Blue Jays. Go ahead.